welcome everybody to the Crypto Mining Show, your one-stop shop for all cryptocurrency news from the perspective of a cryptocurrency miner. I go by Blind Run on the internet and Matthew in real life. Today, we're going to be talking about U.S. senators pushing a bill to make small crypto transactions tax-free. We also have crypto jacking in the financial sector has risen 269% because 69% is better than 270%, objectively speaking. And we're going to be talking about the SEC is providing regulatory clarity, just not how anyone wants it. We have the targeting the US dollar. Russia, China, and Brics nations plan to craft a new international reserve currency. This could spell doom, of course, for the US dollar. We have a release, news information, a blog release from Neoxa regarding basically the response to Minecraft's blog post yesterday that we covered. So if you didn't check that out, don't worry, maybe you can skip this part and then go back to that video yesterday, but it's very important, some good insights there. GetBlock is extending the phase 2 of Neta rewards. And we have the 4090 rumors and their power consumptions as well as prices. And then we have a couple minor releases to follow all of that up with. Thanks everybody for hanging out today and for being here. I'm hoping you're getting notifications. Some people are not. So let's just go over it again. We're live every day at 9:45 a.m. Central to, of course, 10:45 a.m. Central, a little bit later. Sometimes we go a little bit later, but it is what it is every morning, Monday through Friday. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. We're here, we're live, and then we post dedicated content at 6 p.m. Central Time, and we have tons of new fun content. Check this out. We got a Steam Deck. I haven't even set it up. It's just right there on the, we're going to set this up and then get a micro SD card. We're going to play with this, get some cool mining stuff on it, maybe play some video games. I had to get a dock so that we could record it. That's why we haven't done anything, but I'm excited for this. We also have 3 cards back here that somebody sent that want me to look at. So we're going to be going over troubleshooting GPUs that are not booting as well this week. And we have a couple more farm vlogs. So lots of stuff coming out on the channel. Be sure to share it and make sure you're tuned in and ready to go. Let's get into today's show though, right after a word from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is Crypto.com. Crypto.com is my go-to centralized exchange for liquidating my crypto assets. With their Crypto.com Visa debit card, I can load up my mined Ethereum to pay for power and other operating costs quickly while earning up to 8% cash back. In addition to the Visa debit card, there are additional fiat options including wire transfers to easily receive your profits. Crypto.com also offers additional services including trading and even staking to earn additional revenue on your investments. Join 10 million plus users buying and selling 100 plus cryptocurrencies at true cost by using my affiliate link in the description for a $25 funding bonus. Or enter referral code SOAT at sign up for the same bonus. Remember, cryptocurrency investment comes with significant risks, so do your own research. Bam! All right, and welcome back, everybody. So, first things first, we have the new BZ Miner version 10.0.1, which was released yesterday. What's in this release? They fixed NVRTC DLL issues, and they added max log history option for GUI console log history. And on the GUI, they also did group totals by algo plus pool plus wallet. We did cover version 10.0 yesterday, so this is just a reiteration of that. The only real thing that you need to be aware of is that they added a new coin called Wood Coin. I have no experience with that yet, but if you guys do have some experience with it, let me know, of course, in the comment section in the live stream. What is Wood Coin? Because I have no idea right now at this point. We did have another minor release, so 2 minor releases today, and that is from Gminer, and Gminer released version 3.04, and they moved to a new version of balance fetching API for 2Miners pools and decreased network traffic. I don't know what kind of impact this is going to have specifically for 2Miners, but you know, if you are mining on 2Miners and you're having issues with Gminer, maybe check this out, see if they fixed some stuff there. Unfortunately, other than the big release this week of version 10.0 adding a new coin for BZ Miner, there really hasn't been much around the mining realm for a while. A lot of mining software devs, seem to have been kind of taking a break for this bear market, and we truly are still in a bear market. Like I said before, I didn't think that we were going to break out and see some sort of early bull run, and that appears to be true. Now, a lot of that is, of course, sentiment surrounding the Fed decisions that are coming up on Friday. So we're going to be seeing more about that on Friday, and we'll just have to kind of buckle up, Buttercup, because we might be going back down closer to 18 before we get closer to 22 again. Now, Nvidia GeForce RTX 4090 is rumored to launch in a 450 watt and 600 watt variant, and they're priced lower than the 3090 Ti. According to a new rumor published over at ChipL Forums, the Nvidia GeForce RTX 4090 graphics card will come in both 450 watt and 600 watt variants and be priced lower than the RTX 3090 Ti's MSRP. So good news on pricing. I don't know about releasing two power versions of the 4090 under the FE branding. Now, if you guys aren't aware how this usually works, you'll have a Founders Edition or a reference model that comes from the manufacturer and also is sent out to third parties, usually in the past. AMD still does this where they send out a reference model, and then some of their partners like Sapphire and XFX will make a reference model as a third party. But Nvidia's kind of now changed over to what they call a Founders Edition, and their reference model is literally only manufactured by them. Business practices wise, I think some people had some issues with that. I'm kind of in the air about it, but as far as this particular setup goes now, what used to happen is you would have that Founders Edition, and then the third-party board manufacturers would get a hold of it, and they would be the ones that added in more power for higher overclocking limits. This kind of steps on the foot of their third-party board manufacturers, in my humble opinion, because what they have here essentially is going to be a 450 watt version that's probably like the base reference design, and then they will also have a Founders Edition, if rumors are true, that is an overclocked version that runs up to 600 watts. And that does seem, like I said, to step on the toes of like PNY, EVGA, and so on. But we'll just have to see. Already the Founders Editions in the past are the best bin chips. Nvidia saves the best for themselves. That's why Founders Edition cards, among other reasons, are usually highly sought out compared to the third-party boards. And with, of course, the demand for GPUs going down, I think this is really, really going to hurt their third-party partners. That being said, the rumor states that the Nvidia GeForce RTX 4090 might be the only Ada Lovelace-powered graphics card launching and hitting retail shelves this year, with the other variants possibly slipping into Q1 of 2023. Now, of course, why would this be? Well, this is because they don't want to end up with too much stock on the shelves. If they can release the top line of their GPU, they can show that they are still potentially at the top of the GPU game in comparison to Radeon, but not have to basically fight their own prices on the 30 series. You'll probably see a subsequent decrease in MSRP for the RTX 3090 Ti and 3090 and 3080s, and they'll try to clear the shelves off there so they don't end up with too much overstock, driving the price down on the MSRP even further than they would like to on the Ada Lovelace GPUs. One reason for this delay could be the fact that Nvidia is very serious about its existing GPU inventory, and AIBs could have asked the Green Team to wait a bit more before launching new cards. And that is also why we are seeing the existing flagship lineup drop down the 1,000 US price range in retail sites. Nvidia's GeForce RTX 3080 Ti, which had an MSRP of $1,200 US, is already being sold for lower than $800 US, while the 3090, which had an MSRP of $1,500 US, is currently on offer for $1,000 US. The most interesting part is the TGP figures. It is stated that Nvidia GeForce RTX 4090 graphics card will come in both the 450 and 600 watt TGP flavors. The reference design is most likely going to be kept at 450 watts, but AIBs will have the option to go up to 600 watts in their custom designs. That's as expected. It sounded like they were saying the FE version was going to get the 600 per my previous rant here, but maybe that isn't the case. They are saving the 600 watt design for their AIBs and their partners. It is clarified that the 450 watt and 600 watt variants will have the same frequency boost clock limit, but the higher TGP variant will have a lower chance of hitting its TGP wall and may end up providing a slightly better performance uplift within games. Nvidia's AIB partners will mention if the card uses the 450 watt or the 600 watt TGP figure on their box packages, which is something that we haven't seen in the last few generations. And that's because obviously Ada Lovelace is using a ton of power. And if you have a system with a smaller power supply, 1,000 watts or under at this point, you're going to want to be very, very careful. It's absolutely incredible the amount of power these gaming systems are going to take. And from a mining perspective, running the 4090 is extremely risky in a rig with more than a couple cards. Finally, and the most important bit of this rumor, the forum member states that the RTX 4090 will have a lower MSRP than the 3090 Ti. The RTX 3090 Ti had an MSRP of $1999 US, and the RTX 3090 had an MSRP of $1499 US. Note how the rumor doesn't state a lower MSRP than the standard RTX 3090, but the more expensive RTX 3090 Ti. So we might just get another price bump over the previous non-Ti 90 models around $1699 to $1799 US. With that said, I think Nvidia should really be using the $1499 US tag as the MSRP of the previous non-Ti 90 model, since it is already way high of a price to pay for a GPU. The Nvidia GeForce RTX 4090 graphics card is expected to be powered by the top AD 102-300 GPU, but it is only the Ti variant that will feature the full chip. The 4090 will utilize a slightly cut down configuration. Get some water. The 4090 will use 128 SMs of the 144 SMs for a total of 16,384 CUDA cores. The GPU will come packed with 96 megabytes of L2 cache and a total of 384 ROPS, which is simply insane. It's the simply insane guy. I love this guy. The clock speeds are not confirmed, but considering that the TSMC 4 nanometer process is being used, we are expecting clocks to hit or even exceed the 3 gigahertz range. The core count is a 56% increase over the 3090, so a lot of things such as clocks, cache, architecture, and various other technologies are pushing the performance up by such a huge margin. We have already seen over 2 times the uplift in performance versus the 3090 graphics card in rumors. As for memory specifications, which is what we care about as miners, the 4090 is expected to rock 24 gigabytes of GDDR6X capacities that will be clocked at 21 gigabits per second across a 384-bit bus. That means 1 terabyte a second of bandwidth, which will be basically on par with the 3090 Ti for the uninitiated, which means as far as purchasing for mining, the 3090 Ti coming down in price will probably be a lot more enticing than a 4090 at launch, of course, outside of core heavy algorithms, which may benefit from the new 4 nanometer architecture. This is the same bandwidth as the existing Ti graphics card, and as far as the power consumption is concerned, the TBP, which is the total board power, said to be rated at 450 watts, which means that the TGP may end up lower than that. The card will be powered by a 16-pin connector, which delivers up to 600 watts of power, and it is likely that we may get a 500 plus watt custom designs as we saw with the 3090 Ti. The graphics card is expected to launch in October of 2022 and will be followed by the rest of the Ada Lovelace GPU-powered lineup of graphics cards. So there you go. That's everything we have on the RTX 4090 rumors right now. It's looking like somewhere between 3090 and 3090 Ti prices upon launch. Of course, we'll see 3090 Ti, the entire 30 series GPU pricing come down even further as they try to liquidate on the shelving. And that means that really optimal time, especially if it ends up correlating to the merge with Ethereum to purchase GPUs for mining, maybe, a little bit after September. We'll get the new launch. We'll have more cards on shelves. Nvidia will be dropping prices of GPUs. And of course, you have the potential of miners dumping cards onto the market as they get out of mining with GPUs. That is all possible. Now, the Aneta BTC team has decided to extend phase 2 yet again, and this is just a quick Twitter post from getblock.io. Another 5 million Neta will be added to the smart pool at an 8% bonus. This will be the last extension before phase 3 is launched, and they expect this phase to be completed in the next 2 weeks. Phase 3 is the one that everybody's really waiting for because it will be the first time that NFTs will be integrated into proof of work, and there will be some sort of bonus for owning the Aneta Angels, which you can buy off of skyharbor.io. This is kind of like the big question surrounding, of course, proof of work, the most exciting thing happening in it, in my humble opinion. So hopefully we'll get an idea of how that all is going to function. Now, yesterday we talked about Minecraft and their stance on NFTs. Of course, they had some pretty glaring contradictions within their article, especially as it pertains to NFTs, both being able to just be downloaded or right-clicked and saved. So what's the point of them? To also artificially increasing scarcity, which was their reasoning for not doing it. So it's kind of a weird blog post. Either way, all you really need to know is that Minecraft will be updating their EULA to not allow blockchain technology, and Neoxa has basically responded, and it goes as follows. Now, they do have a couple other news points here. Exchange listing. With their exponential growth, or with the exponential growth of Neoxa in the community, we believe it's time for a bigger exchange. Neoxa has recently applied to many exchanges and made the decision to work with a listing agent. Working with a listing agent greatly reduces the headaches that comes with the contacting different exchanges. Our listing agent also negotiates the exchange listing cost and greatly reduces it. The current estimate of the listing cost is $55,000 in USDT. This is always like a weird question of like, should you be dumping in to help support the smaller projects to get listings? It can be beneficial, obviously, for the people in the community because usually with exchange listings comes some sort of bump in price of the currency. You know, I did it with Caspa. It's the only one that I've ever done it with where I've donated for development and listings. I'm still on the fence on whether or not I think it should go this path. I don't think that it necessarily sits in line with the principles of cryptocurrency. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts and opinions on, you know, the communities donating to essentially get listed on exchanges. What do you guys think about that? While exchanges can be costly, Neoxa has now teamed up with the recommended market capitalization manager. We will distribute the Neoxa development funds to our MM, which will sell it off to investors who may be interested. These funds can also be sold to the community. While some exchanges may accept payment in Neoxa to list, our listing agents have recommended against this. So they're actually not going to pay. They're only going to be paying listing agents, but not actually paying the exchanges to get listed. So this is kind of interesting. And this is why it says, as sometimes exchanges might immediately want to sell their coins when the exchange listing goes live, and it could negatively affect the market. While we are excited to get Neoxa proof of game on Minecraft, we believe that it's not the right choice. So here we get into their response to Mojang. Speaking to Mojang, we understand that Neoxa does not currently break any rules, but it could be in the near future. We have tried everything and we have the Minecraft server about ready. We believe that going forward and eventually breaking laws will not be good for Neoxa. We are still in contact with Mojang and will receive a final statement from them in a few days. We understand that we have made statements that recent changes to the Minecraft EULA do not affect Neoxa currently. However, we don't want to be in a situation where we are sent backwards. Neoxa strives on moving forward and adapting to changes with the cryptocurrency space. If any of these changes, it will be updated. Now, here's where it gets interesting. They're adding some pretty cool ones. The Neoxa team is disappointed with the recent changes in Minecraft, but has not lost confidence in the project. We believe that this may even open new doors. We have looked at many alternatives, and we have now decided to add the proof of game tracker to Fortnite and Rocket League. Those are some pretty big ones. I'd love to play some Rocket League and earn some Neoxa. These games are owned by Epic Games. With a recent statement made by Epic Games, we feel confident to do so. Both of these games can be tracked. Moving to games such as Rocket League and Fortnite, Neoxa is introduced not only to PC gamers, but also to the console and mobile. Neoxa is scheduled to burn any unused proof of game coins after the launch of the new exchange. This will happen after the exchange listing. Proof of game coins will continue to be burned until all proof of game slots are filled. Ideally, the Neoxa team wants the proof of game coins to be sent out to the proof of game miners. Neoxa is all about transparency, and we want it to reflect on the blockchain. So some people were saying there was a Neoxa dump. It could be because of the announcement of not releasing the Minecraft server, but there's a lot of positive stuff coming into play here. Obviously, working with games that are, on the Epic Games Store, where Epic does support kind of blockchain and NFTs in the future, per their previous statements, is a wise decision. And I think that not releasing the Minecraft after the statement from Mojang is the correct decision. So I support them in that decision. As far as utilizing community funds and, basically dev funds to go ahead and pay for an exchange listing agent, I'm still up in the air as far as that goes. I feel like it's one of those things that you kind of need to do. But at the same time, like, at what expense to the community does that come down to? Should it be a slow roll, right? Like Bitcoin, slow and low, don't rock the ship too much. The adoption will come as the project grows and development is, more robust. That's kind of, it's kind of one of those things that I don't have an answer for personally or an opinion on strong in either direction at this time. Let's get into targeting the US dollar hedge money. What? Russia, China, and Brics nations plan to craft a new international reserve currency. This doesn't sound good. While inflation data in Europe and the US has risen significantly higher the last month, Russia and members of the Brics countries revealed leaders in the 5 major emerging economies are in the midst of creating an international reserve currency. Analysts believe the BRICS reserve currency is meant to rival the US dollar and the International Monetary Fund's special drawing rights currency. During the last month, the West has been struggling with red-hot inflation and energy prices skyrocketing higher. Politicians in the UK, Europe, and the US have been trying to blame the economic calamity on a number of things like the Ukraine-Russia war and the lockdowns. Data from the last month's consumer prices in America and Europe have climbed to all-time highs, and many analysts say Western countries are in a recession or about to experience one. Meanwhile, at the end of June, members of the BRICS nations met at the 14th BRICS Summit to discuss world affairs. During the BRICS summit, Russian President Vladimir Putin announced that the 5 member economies, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, plan to issue a new global reserve currency. The matter of creating the international reserve currency based on the basket of currencies of our countries is under review, Putin said at the time. We are ready to openly work with all fair partners, he added. Additionally, Turkey, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia are considering joining the Brics group. Analysts believe the Brics move to create a reserve currency is an attempt to undermine the US dollar and the IMF's SDRs. Of course it is. Of course it is. Like, there are so many countries that do not want to be reliant on the US dollar. And frankly, with the strong arming of like Saudi Arabia to purchase oil with the US dollar, and now Saudi Arabia is kind of pushed to start to accept some of the Chinese yuan for their oil. You know, this is kind of like, I feel like the writing was already on the wall, and this is just kind of pushing it over. It does spell out bad news for Western economies, especially the US, as the US dollar does not have anything but this to rely on other than maybe like military expenditures, right? This is a move to address the perceived U.S. hegemony of the IMF. The global head of the markets at ING, Chris Turner, explained at the end of June, it will allow Brics to build their own sphere of influence and a unit of currency within that sphere. While the news of a reserve currency created by Brics may be a surprise to some, specifics about the member countries countering the US dollar have been reported on for quite some time. At the end of May 2022, a Global Times report noted members were urged to end their dependence on the dollar's global dominance. Putin explained the following month that contracts between Russia business circles and the business community of the Brics countries have intensified. The Russian president further noted that Indian retail chain stores would be hosted in Russia and Chinese cars and hardware would be imported regularly. Putin's recent statements and commentary at the Brics summit have made people believe Brics members are not just a talk shop anymore. In addition to South Africa, Russia has also increased foreign aid and has delivered weapons to sub-Saharan African countries. Furthermore, Putin and other Brics leaders have been targeting U.S. and exceptionalism in specific statements published by the media. At this year's St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, Putin addressed the crowd with a 70-minute speech and talked about the U.S. ruling the world's financial system for years. Nothing lasts forever, Putin said. Americans think of themselves as exceptional, and if they think they're exceptional, that means everyone else is second class, the Russian president told the forum attendees. Ooh, that's swinging hard, huh? Speaking with Russian ambassadors in a biennial speech, Putin said the West was weakening a great deal in terms of economic power. I do agree with that. Domestic socioeconomic problems that have become worse in industrialized countries as a result of the economic crisis are weakening the dominant role of the so-called historical West, Putin remarked to the ambassadors. Be ready for any development of the situation, even for the most unfavorable development. Russia and Putin have been saying that the U.S. dominance in the world of finance has been dying for years now. In October 2018, speaking at the Valdai Forum, Putin said the U.S. sanctioning specific countries, including Russia, would undermine trust in the U.S. dollar. The Russian president noted that most of the fallen empires have made the same mistake. It's a typical mistake of an empire, the Russian leader declared at the time. An empire always thinks that it can allow itself to make some little mistakes, take some extra cost, because its power is such that they don't mean anything. But the quantity of those costs, those mistakes, inevitably grows, Putin continued. And the moment comes when it can't handle them, neither in the security sphere or the economic sphere. Oof. Moreover, in June, Bloomberg published a report about the BRICS summit and noted that China's President Xi Jinping suggested that NATO was responsible for antagonizing the Russian Federation. Xi also said that certain countries that bolster exceptionalism will falter by suffering from security vulnerabilities. politicizing, instrumentalizing, and weaponizing the world economy, using a dominant position in the global financial system to wantonly impose sanctions would only hurt others as well as hurting oneself, leaving people around the world suffering, Z detailed. Those who obsess with the position of strength, expand their military alliance, and seek their own security at the expense of others will only fall into a security conundrum. The strengthening of the Brics nations has been going on well before the conflict in Ukraine began. For instance, in 2014, Russia fully developed the system of for transfer of financial messages, SPFS, and later the Mir payment system was launched. That same year, in response to the annexation of Crimea, Russia started to stockpile gold in vast amounts. China has been hoarding massive amounts of gold as well, as both countries hiked their gold reserve purchases a great deal a few years before the war. Russia banks also joined the China International Payment System, making it easier for the two countries to trade. In April of last year, China opened its borders to billions of dollars of gold imports, according to a report from Reuters. Since World War I, the US dollar has been the world's global reserve currency, and America emerged as the largest international creditor. Fast forward to today, and the dollar is booming against a number of other countries, and the USD is the most robust it has been in an entire generation. The US dollar currency index gained over 10% this year and outpaced strong currencies like the Japanese yen. Just recently, the euro met parity with the dollar, and other countries like the Indian rupee, Polish zloty, Colombian peso, and South African rand have faltered against the greenback in recent times. However, the Russian ruble has been a strong competitor to the dollar this year and has been one of the best performing fiat currencies in 2022. With inflation soaring and interest rates getting hiked by the Federal Reserve, Kamakshia Trivedi, the co-head of market research group at Goldman Sachs, stressed that it's been a pretty tough mix to deal with. Despite the uncertainty, the analyst at Goldman Sachs thinks the dollar, at least for now, will remain robust. But in comparison to the greenback's recent spike in value, most of the rise is in the past, he remarked. For now, we still expect the dollar to trade on the front foot, he wrote on July 16th. There might be a bit more to go, but probably the largest part of the dollar move may be well behind us. This is very big news, and it does affect cryptocurrency because we're talking about currencies, right? And we're talking about essentially the US dollar dominance, and we are talking about other international, like other countries basically banding together to create another reserve currency to combat the US dollar dominance. And so whether you're part of the US or not, it is clear that the US dollar has been the strongest to basically put in your cash into if you want to protect some of your funds. For example, like we saw in Argentina, we saw a 300% rise during the collapse in trading with stable coins. Those stable coins are typically denoted in US dollar. If there is another competition that comes into play here, and we continue to see, obviously, countries like Saudi Arabia kind of renege on the deal of only accepting US dollar for oil, this can be compounded, and this can end up collapsing the US dollar in the long term. Like they said here, for the time being, the US dollar is very strong in comparison to other currencies. But, you know, on Friday, too, when we get more information on, of course, inflation and how they are going to approach that from the Fed, it could spell out bad news here and there. So just stay prepared. As it relates to cryptocurrency, you know, I've said this a few other times, and it can be a little controversial, but Bitcoin it's not about the price of Bitcoin going up, because I think at the end of the day, Bitcoin is just what I call inevitable, right? Like at the end of the day, the cryptocurrency, especially as we see it in a principled standpoint from the white paper of Bitcoin in particular, it's inevitable. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of time, and it will be what is accepted. Good news for states like Texas is they are adding basically the right for the citizens of Texas to own and hold cryptocurrency, as we talked about yesterday. So if you missed yesterday's show, definitely hop on that, because that is obviously extremely relevant right now. because if the US dollar does suffer some sort of competition, especially from, foreign countries, and the government decides to try to fix that, they will probably come down harder on cryptocurrency. So being in some sort of sanctuary state that blocks that with their own states' rights may be beneficial. The SEC is providing regulatory clarity, just not how anyone wants. So speaking of more regulation, the Securities and Exchange Commission was pretty clear about why it deemed 9 cryptocurrency securities last week. And that's equally clearly an opening salvo. Here we go. So, the Securities and Exchange Commission set up a challenge on whether some tokens were securities, and Coinbase went ahead and slapped the agency with a glove. Also, a quick personal note, he said, all right, we'll skip that. You're reading State of Crypto. So the narrative is the Securities and Exchange Commission alleged that 9 cryptocurrencies are securities. The SEC calling a cryptocurrency a security is not new. What is new is doing it in a legal filing that doesn't directly address the issuers of the tokens. The regulator appears to be laying the groundwork for bringing crypto trading platforms more fully into its umbrella. Not your keys, not your crypto. Get your crypto off of centralized exchanges, guys. So did the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission just announce that Coinbase, a publicly traded company it oversees, illegally listed non-compliant securities in an insider trading complaint? The SEC alleged that the 9 cryptocurrencies, several of which are listed on Coinbase, are securities in a complaint against 3 individuals arrested for insider trading. The full list includes Flex's AMP, Rally, the Rari government token RGT, Derivia DAO, DDX, XYO, LCX, Power Ledger, DFX Finance, and Chromatica, Crom. This appears to have taken everybody by surprise. In a statement shared with CoinDesk, a Flexus spokesperson said the company was not contacted by the SEC prior to the complaint being released and has significant questions about the conclusions regarding AMP. The CEO of LCX tweeted that his token was approved by the legal counsel and recognized as being a non-security outside the U.S., but not within the U.S. It seems a fair assumption that the SEC must be planning on taking further action here that could look like an enforcement action against Coinbase or against the issuers. But the base of this allegation is that these 9 cryptocurrencies are unregistered securities. It is hard to imagine that the SEC enforcement team shrugging his shoulders and saying mission accomplished, time to move on without doing anything further. It's likely going to be a legal fight though. Coinbase published a blog post authored by Chief Legal Officer Paul Grewal saying, "We 100% disagree with the SEC's decision to file these securities frauds charges and the substance of the charges themselves." The exchange went a step further. 7 of the 9 assets included in the SEC's charges are listed on Coinbase's platform. None of these assets are securities, Grewal wrote. It's worth pointing out that the SEC laid out why it believes these cryptocurrencies are securities in the complaint, detailing how the agency's attorneys applied the Howey test to each asset. Coinbase, so far at least, has not detailed why it believes the assets are not securities. In an open question as to what happens next, typically when the SEC says a certain asset is a security, it does so through either an enforcement action against or a settlement with the issuer. That didn't happen here. You normally see exchanges rushing to delist or suspend trading in the alleged securities. Again, that didn't happen here. The SEC is challenging Coinbase, and Coinbase, for its part, is challenging the regulator right back. One frequent complaint about the SEC is that it's not providing clear regulatory guidelines for the industry. The counter to this viewpoint is that the Howey test and other existing laws and regulations do, in fact, address how securities laws can or should apply to digital assets. Last week's action would suggest the SEC is continuing to support this latter view. Again, one of the remarkable aspects is that the SEC dedicated several pages of its complaint to explaining just why, in its view, the named assets are securities. And SEC Chair Gary Gensler's been pretty clear about his endgame. He wants cryptocurrency exchanges, namely Coinbase as one example, to register with the regulator as national securities exchanges. Identifying assets already listed in a pretty dramatic step towards encouraging Coinbase to register. To add to the oddness of Thursday's actions, two Commodity Futures Trading Commission officials also weighed in, saying their agency could have brought charges. One of the statements by Commissioner Caroline Pham even took aim at the SEC for regulation by enforcement, before going on to suggest that the tokens may not be securities. The SEC complaint alleges that dozens of digital assets, including those that could be described as utility tokens and or certain tokens relating to DAOs, are securities, Pham said in her statement. In a tweet from her personal account, Pham later said that the CFTC also has insider trading jurisdiction. Commissioner Kristen Johnson likewise said in a statement that the different financial market regulators stand united. We must continue to work collaboratively to adopt a whole-of-government approach to prevent bad actors from taking advantage of important policy and regulatory debates, and to ensure the protection of retail investors and preservation of the safety and soundness of our financial system, Johnson said. Admittedly, I've only been paying attention for a handful of years now, but I've never seen officials with a government agency weigh in on another agency's enforcement action quite like this before. By the way, in what appears to be a coincidence, Coinbase petitioned the SEC to ask for regulatory clarity, saying existing securities laws do not necessarily fit the digital asset infrastructure. And on Monday night, Bloomberg reported that the SEC was looking into Coinbase for possibly listing securities. Gee, I wonder if the agency's enforcement division has any specific assets in mind. Of course they do. Woo! So, obviously, regulation here is these types of things. This happened last week, though, and then we saw a boom in the price of cryptocurrency. This was going on last Thursday, but we have a little bit more breaking it down here. And the problem appears to be that the SEC doesn't have really much understanding surrounding cryptocurrency, but they want to control it, right? And so they want to get Coinbase to register as a security so that they have more control over Coinbase and other exchanges within the US. At the end of the day, some sort of control aspect. But here's the problem. I don't think that at the end of the day, no matter how much control they get over centralized exchanges, that any government or entity or any nation state period will ever be able to fully control cryptocurrency. And so it's kind of funny to watch them struggle trying to figure it out, because when I look at it, I'm like, this is basically what you're looking at with cryptocurrency is not dissimilar from things that were happening within the music industry surrounding Napster, etc., to where you're trying to shut down these, except it's way more robust, right? So you basically have to get into a position where you're trying to shut down peer-to-peer networks. And that's never been successful. The most thing you can do is catch some people that don't know how to utilize VPNs or something along those lines. But at the end of the day, like I said, I think cryptocurrency is inevitable. And this is just some sort of posturing and freaking out of the government the SEC in particular here, trying to control it, when the fact of the matter is that they never will be able to. So it's kind of funny to watch. Now, there are some things that need to get fixed, and that pertains to obviously cyber attacks, etc. Cryptojacking in financial sector has risen 269% this year, Sonic Wall says. Cyber attacks targeting the financial industry are now 5 times higher than attacks on retail. The number of cryptojacking cases across the financial sector has risen by 269% in the first half of 2022, according to a report by cybersecurity firm SonicWall. Cryptojacking is a type of cyber attack whereby hackers implement a piece of software that mines cryptocurrencies on a victim's computer. Victims often are unaware of the exploit, which has contributed to the rise in cases, the report says. In previous years, government, healthcare, and education sectors were the most common targets for cryptojacking. But there's been a dramatic reshuffling in 2022. Cryptojacking targeting the retail industry increased 63% year to date, while attacks on the financial industry skyrocketed 269%, the report states. The number of attacks on the finance industry is now 5 times greater than retail, which is the second highest. The rise has also been attributed to a decline in ransomware attacks, which is also caused by increased interest in cryptocurrency-related cyber attacks, coupled with more stringent insurance processes around ransomware. And ransomware actually becomes a little bit difficult because at this point, like most companies, most IT firms have figured out how to handle ransomware, right? Like if you get into a system, ransomware is where you get into a system, you lock down the files on some sort of file server that the company uses, and then you say, hey, pay me in, Monero, probably would be the best, but a lot of people were doing Bitcoin at the time when I was working in the industry, and send it to this payment address, we'll unlock all the files. If you don't, we're not going to unlock all the files, and therefore the company loses a bunch of data. Or alternatively, if there's some risque stuff there or compliance things that the hacker can release to get the company in trouble, they'll threaten to publicly release them. Now, for the most part, obviously you want your front-end security to be good. This is why obviously SonicWall is getting all these reports, because they're a popular firewall for most of the IT industry, if not all at this point. They're pretty ubiquitous, but not ubiquity. IT joke. At the end of the day, though, for that ransomware to take place, like there are other backup processes in place where you're getting daily backups, and then basically the IT company will come in, they'll restore it back to the previous backup. Everything will be good. And they'll just tell the hackers to pound sand. So a lot more invasive, smart way of doing this, obviously, with cryptojacking is just basically utilize your victim's hardware to mine cryptocurrency. Because one, it's hard to detect, especially in large firms. And two, it doesn't really require that they have any sort of interaction with you, right? So you don't have to worry about them as a hacker, having communications with them and getting payment or anything like that. You're just mining and then it's paying it out. There are ways to obviously block this on large networks and go through that process. I think figuring out how to, though, can be a little bit more difficult than figuring out ransomware at the end of the day, right? Because you have the people problem, which is the people click things that they shouldn't click. And then you end up with, some sort of cryptojacking software going across the network. Cryptojacking has a lower potential of being detected by the victim, like we talked about. Unsuspecting users across the world see their devices get unaccountably slower, but it's hard to tie it to criminal activity, much less point to the source. Terry Greer King, SonicWall Vice President for EMEA, told Tech Monitor. And all of that's true, but that is also why we talk to you guys about, being very careful with mining even on your home systems. And that's because SonicWall, all these antivirus programs, they're going to flag miners as malicious because, well, frankly, at the end of the day, they are being used in a malicious standard. And that also means that if there were going to be some attack vector on your system, then the best place to put that attack would be within a miner, because you will most likely be bypassing your firewall and your AV to go ahead and install that mining software. That's also why I'm not as much of a fan of Windows for mining, because you end up in this position where you just have a completely exposed Windows box, and a completely exposed Windows box has a lot more attack vectors on it than, say, just a locked down mining specific operating system like Hive OS or something along those lines. So that is kind of basically my 2 cents on it from the mining perspective as far as that goes. Now, U.S. senators push a bill to make small crypto transactions tax-free. We finally have some good news. surrounding cryptocurrency to end the show off with for you guys. The top Republican of the Senate Banking Committee joined Democrat Kristen Sinema, is that right? Sinema? In legislation to exempt transactions of less than $50. So this is, good. This is going in the right direction. But at the same time, crypto is inevitable and the US dollar is obviously struggling. So, do with that what you will. Prominent U.S. senators are trying to free Americans from tracking taxes every time cryptocurrencies exchange hands, introducing a bill that would exempt them from reporting any transactions up to $50 or any trade in which they earn less than $50. Senator Patrick Toomey joined with Kirsten Sinema to push the exemption from tax requirements for crypto users making small investments or purchases. Their Virtual Currency Tax Fairness Act matches a similar effort previously introduced in the House of Representatives. The idea of clearing low-level transactions from tax worries has also appeared elsewhere, including in a comprehensive bill introduced this year by Senators Cynthia Lummis and Kirsten Gillibrand. Now, obviously, when we talk about this stuff, we've talked about cryptocurrency, we've talked about nation states trying to control it, we've talked about the fact that it's extremely difficult for you to go out and force everybody to adhere to a law like when there's 7 billion people and only so many people in these governments to control it. And when we talk about these small transactions, like that is a ton of work for auditing and processing through the system. So at the end of the day, yeah, it could be for the people, but it is sort of a logistics problem too of like, are you really going to have some guy out there trying to audit, 30 million people in the United States or however many are participating in crypto at this point and find every single sub $50 transaction and process how much tax is owed on all of that? It's a little ridiculous. And it's basically, you aren't capable of doing it. So we go back to that whole idea of like cryptocurrency inevitable. It's not controllable. You have very sophisticated peer-to-peer networks. Even if you wanted to track and tax every single cryptocurrency transaction, it's not feasible in the first place. So, it makes sense. You're kind of like, it's almost, to me, this sounds like throwing in the towel and being like, yeah, like we can't figure it out anyways. That's what it feels like to me. Their Virtual Currency Tax Fairness Act matches a similar effort. We talked about that. The idea of clearing low-level transactions from tax worries has also appeared elsewhere, including in the more comprehensive bill introduced this year by Senators Cynthia Lummis and Kirsten Gillibrand. While digital currencies have the potential to become an ordinary part of Americans' everyday lives, our current tax code stands in the way, said Toomey. I agree. He also sought to help the crypto industry on multiple tracks before he retires from the Senate at the end of this session. The latest bill will let people use cryptocurrencies more easily as an everyday method of payment, which is what we want to see, by exempting from taxes small personal transactions like buying a cup of coffee. Ta-da, it sounds good. Proper direction. International Revenue Service has held a firm crypto policy. When you sell virtual currency, you must recognize any capital gain or loss on the sale, the IRS declares on its website. That standard has been among the roadblocks standing in the way of crypto's use in the U.S. as an alternative way to pay for things, industry advocates have argued. This would foster use of crypto for retail payments, subscription services, and microtransactions, said Jerry Brito, executive director of Coin Center, a crypto policy think tank in Washington. More importantly, it would foster the development of decentralized blockchain infrastructure, generally because networks depend on small transaction fees that today saddle users with compliance friction. However, the new legislation faces an uphill climb in a Congress on the verge of a lengthy August recess before the midterm elections. Though there has been some movement on an effort to regulate stablecoins, most congressional insiders predict that crypto is unlikely to see significant progress on legislation until next year. So like I said, this is pretty good news, but at the same time, it's kind of like it kind of benefits them as well, because tracking all of that is just logistically, like, it's going to cost the government way too much money to do that. at the end of the day, at least my personal thoughts on it. Let's get into mining profitability after a word from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is Crypto.com. Crypto.com is my go-to centralized exchange for liquidating my crypto assets. With their Crypto.com Visa debit card, I can load up my mined Ethereum to pay for power and other operating costs quickly while earning up to 8% cash back. In addition to the Visa debit card, there are additional fiat options, including wire transfers, to easily receive your profits. Crypto.com also offers additional services, including trading and even staking, to earn additional revenue on your investments. Join 10 million plus users buying and selling 100 plus cryptocurrencies at true cost by using my affiliate link in the description for a $25 funding bonus. Or enter referral code SOAT at sign up for the same bonus. Remember, cryptocurrency investment comes with significant risks, so do your own research. All right, guys, we moved back to Hive on pool, but we haven't quite had 24 hours yet on it. So we did get a payout of $86 US, which is 0.06 ETH. And currently our expected earnings every 24 hours on Hive on pool is 0.079 ETH, which is equivalent of $111.59 and 59 cents in US dollar. That's with a real-time hash rate of 5.28 and an average over the past 24 hours of 5 gigahash a second. Obviously, as it gets hotter, it gets worse, and that is pretty much what we deal with. So I do have two cards that kicked offline on two of the Octo miners. They are 5700s, so that's about 100 mega hash offline. They'll have to go get figured out later on this week. But we have lots of stuff going on, like I said before. Anyways, much better than what we were seeing on Crazy Pool, as far as like Crazy Pool was all over the place. It was just being crazy. So we moved over here just for some stable income for now. Now, let's take a look at mining profitability on the RTX 3090 at 10 cents a kilowatt hour with corrected hash rates for ZIL hash at 110 solutions a second, Kapow at 60, ProgPow at 60, and Firo at 60. Now, what you'll see here is that Ethereum is at $2.43 a day in revenue and $1.66 a day after power. We did have, obviously, the decrease in price of the cryptocurrency market. Cero is at $2.38 a day in revenue and $1.59 a day after power. Ravencoin at $2.34 a day in revenue and $1.54 a day after power. Firo $2.29 a day in revenue and $1.54 a day after power. Ethereum Classic $1.98 a day in revenue and $1.21 a day after power. Flux $1.75 a day in revenue and $1.05 a day after power. Ergo at $1.59 a day in revenue and 97 cents a day after power. And Neoxa had a big dip in price, taking it down to $1.59 a day in revenue and 80 cents a day after power. Unfortunately, excuse me, how the mighty have fallen from the top of the charts. But it is what it is. Let's take a look at hash rates on the networks. We have Bitcoin at 227 exahash a second. No real change. Let's go ahead and take a look at Ethereum. And Ethereum is at 930 terahash a second, so it's down about 10 terahash a second from yesterday. Let's take a look at Ethereum Classic. It is at 26 terahash a second, no real changes. Let's take a look at Flux. Flux is at 1 mega solution a second, so no real changes from yesterday. Ravencoin is at 2 terahash a second. No real changes from yesterday. Actually, it's a little down. Like what? 0.1 terahash a second or something around there. Neoxa. Have people been jumping off of Neoxa with this dip? It's starting to happen, but not really yet. I think some people haven't realized the dump yet. It looks like it kind of shot back up and recovered a little bit as well. This is the 7-day. You can see that dip. And then it looks like it's starting to recover to me. So there is that to note about Neoxa. Take a look at Ergo, which is at still 10 terahash a second. Mining pool profitability for the past 90 days. Ether mining first, Crazy Pool in second, Mining Pool Hub in second, Crazy Pool in third. Last 60 days, ZET in first, Ether mine in second, Crazy Pool in third. Last 30 days, Mining Pool Hub in first, F2 Pool in second, Nano Pool in third. Last 21 days, Mining Pool Hub in first, F2 Pool in second, Nano Pool in third. Last 14 days, Mining Pool Hub in first, Ether mine in second, F2 Pool in third. Last 7 days, Nano Pool in first, Ether mine in second, F2 Pool in third. For the last 3 days, we have ZET in first, Crazy Pool in second, Nano Pool in third. For the last day, it says Crazy Pool in first, Ether mine in second, F2 Pool in third. I will point out that Crazy Pool, apparently I'm hearing reports not doing payouts today, but I'm not on Crazy Pool, so I don't have confirmation on that. Let me know if you guys are having issues with Crazy Pool today. Let's see. So, Asic miner profitability and miner L7 has dropped below $20 a day at $18.79. And the poor Nyan coin has fallen out of glory, unfortunately. Oh, Nyan. Kitty coin. KD6 at $13.73 a day. KD5 at $8.32 a day. And then if we scroll down to the S19 Pro, it just dropped below $4 a day at $3.99 a day. If you guys want to check out 5% off with promo code SOAT over at Coastal Crypto, so definitely go check that out. And there is a 10% off promotion. You can check it out on my latest video for Octo miners, so go check that out. Let's get into questions and answers for the day. Remember, super chats are never required. Easiest to read, so they'll be the first that are answered. Always appreciated. Tag @SonOfATech if you have a specific question or comment that you would like me to respond to. That highlights the message orange, making it easier for me to pick out of the chat. I want to thank everybody that is still here through this bear market and helping support the channel. Chadwick says, @SonOfATech, that brings me back to the sovereign individual. It looks like states who adopt crypto will be ahead of the game. I do think that is true. Andrew McCarthy says, @SonOfATech, Brics is the real deal. I have a feeling that is true too. NZ says, @SonOfATech, the markets of Bitcoin and ETH look bad. As expected, though, right? We expect this through 2024, so no real shocker there. Rocco says, @SonOfATech, I get 49 mega hash a second for 54 watts on ET hash. I cannot share which GPU I do this with because I have an NDA, but please be aware that you will never in 100 years be able to beat large-scale miners. We talked about this with, of course, the Hut 8 GPUs and their secret GPUs that they got that they get. That doesn't mean necessarily that they're going to hop to a bunch of small coins, though, either. Carson says, hey, SonOfATech, you never read the book Ender's Game. Learn the practical use of the word head. I can't do it. I can't pronounce it right. In junior high, between playing CS 1.6 and reading fantasy books in school. Ted Park, thanks for the 99-cent super chat. I'm not on anybody's level. I'm just a dumb redneck, bro. Come on. It tries to provide whatever I learned to the community. That's it. That's all I've ever done. Boosting the super chat, Ted Park. Thank you, good sir. Oh, baby. Looks like not a lot of questions today. Maybe we will head on over to, let's see, we got a little bit of time. I do have to edit a video. I have a meeting at 2. Let's see. A couple more questions coming in. Daniel says, @SonOfATech, my grandparents lived in Russia for 10 years. It's funny hearing Putin talk about currency after the crap they pulled with theirs. I mean, of course he wants to take down the dominance of the US dollar, though. And working with China is probably a pretty good plan. Mid G says, @SonOfATech, do you think it's a good idea to campaign Ethereum Classic so they switch algos to ProgPal? Should be much easier to influence them than Ethereum. I don't really like ProgPal, though. Village BC says, @SonOfATech, efficiency or density? Probably efficiency, provided you have enough room. Carson says, yes, I can't stand it when SonOfATech goes on political rants considering he has issues with the words hedge money. Love his mining info and relatable nature. Sometimes he goes down a rabbit holes. Well, you know, we're going to talk about it when it comes out. But here, we can do this so I pronounce it correctly, right? We can always fix it. We can always learn, and we'll learn live right now. Boom. Let's get it in.
Hegemony.
Hegemony. There we go. And then for the definition, social, cultural, ideological, or economic influence exerted by a dominant group. Boom. Scott Schultz says, do you ever get the Steam Deck? Yeah, we showed it off. We have it over here. We have the Steam Deck in hand. It's big, dude. It's really big. Like, here's a Masha can. It's way bigger than the Switch. So, there you go. Alex says, that's something I'm not sure the logistical problem of tracking small transactions is that big of a deal since all transactions are on chain. You use software to do a lot of the legwork. Unless you don't get KYC. So your assumption basically has to tie all of the wallet addresses to an individual, which the crypto community is rightfully against. Hammy Time says, that's Son of a Tech. Are you thinking of solo mining anything or spec mining? Not currently, no. Not right now. I'm in the process of getting YouTube content out. LZ says, ask Son of a Tech, don't forget to claim your Flux AVAX from the drop. Almost got 900 Flux AVAX out of it yesterday. There you go. Chadwick's Racing says, ask Son of a Tech, talk about geopolitical topics is a must. Major changes coming in the world before the end of the fourth turning. Oof, be careful. Now we're gonna trigger that algo even harder on YouTube. Detroit Iris says, ask Son of a Tech, no Steam Deck, only hegemony. There we go. Dave says, ask Son of a Tech, the rabbit holes tend to be relevant and feel appropriate. Scott Schultz says, you're stuck on hegemony, bro. Now I'm going to keep pronouncing it wrong, too, because I keep going in the wrong place of it. GoldenEyeForever.com says, Son of a Tech, did you read recently that Vitalik said they're 90% done testing the merge? I was expecting a higher percentage. I wonder if he's addressing this September's expectation. I don't know. I don't think so. I think that like 90% sounds about right? I don't know what that 10% equates to, though. Like, because does 90% mean we have all the hard stuff done and now it's just logistically like getting it out? Shooter McGavin says, that Son of a Tech, thought I heard that Ergo sitting in a wallet for extended period of time will be recycled as part of an emission cycle. Is this true? Yes. It's called storage fees. Broba TV says, ask Son of a Tech, can you switch your cam and show the deck again? Yeah. Here you go. It only has one USB-C port right here, and then a micro SD port back here. And I got a little dock for it coming in that should allow us to screen cap it. And then I'll show you guys. Hold on, where'd it go? And then it has an M.2 slot, so we're going to install Windows on a micro SD. And we have an M.2 4 GPU riser card. So I'm just gonna put that right there. Put a micro SD slot in here. We're gonna have a mining rig. That's the plan. at least. Crypto Mikkel says he just got his. Congratulations, good sir. Max Barbell says, "Ask Tech, are you seeing an uptick in efficiency on the octo cases and a reduction of heat?" Yeah, definitely a reduction of heat, and we are staying over 5 gigahash all the time in the middle of the hottest summer in Texas in a long time. So I'm pretty happy with it. Daniel says, "Ask Tech, if people aren't in crypto for political reasons, they're not in it for the right reasons, in my opinion." And then the shut up face. So, yeah, I mean, if we're talking about cryptocurrency, and we are talking about the reason Bitcoin was created after the 2008 financial crisis, then you would have to assume that those two are tied in hand. And if we're talking about economy, then we also are going to talk about politics. And that is basically how it all, comes together. If you try to ignore it within cryptocurrency, then you're just going to be in a position where you end up giving it over. What is that quote? Hold on, I'll get this. I will find it. I don't know why I always forget it. I feel like it's a super relevant point. I'm not going to find it right now. Maybe somebody in chat knows where I'm headed. Samuel says, "Do you think we'll see lower prices for the Octa miners in 2023? Probably not. Here's why. They're not a big company, and you still have to take into account the cost and the shortages and everything that's going on, right? So I don't think brand new cases will come down. I think that you may see used cases come onto the market, and that would be something to look out for, right? All right. I'm going to end it here. Probably going to head on over to locals at sonofatech.locals for a quick stream over there just to catch up on some stuff, nodes, etc. And then I do have a meeting at 2 and I do have to get a video recorded. So right now, we're going to head on over for a supporters only stream at sonofatech.locals.com. Thanks everybody for hanging out here. Be sure to hit the like, comment, subscribe, and notification bell down below. We'll be live again tomorrow at 9:45 a.m. Central Time, and that is 10:45 a.m. Eastern, 7:45 a.m. Pacific. And we covered all the time zones in the United States, but I can't cover all of them in the entire world because while I do love all of y'all that joined from all over the globe, I don't know those off the top of my head because it is what it is. I will see you next Tuesday.